If you're a fursuiter, then you know how exciting it is to finally take your suit out of the box. And whether if it's a full suit like this one or just a head, getting that suit on is the only thing that you care about at that moment. But after the initial honeymoon phase ends, you're left with this thing that you have a responsibility to perform and interact with within the fandom. Now, if this was any other thing that you would normally unbox, one of the first things you'd be presented with is some sort of instruction manual or guide on how to use what's in the box. But in a lot of cases, fursuits don't come with any instructions or guides on what to do with them, or more importantly, the things that they might present to you in the furry fandom. All of that comes with experience, and as someone who was coming up on their second anniversary of having this suit, I thought I'd take some time to talk about some of the things that I learned about fursuiting that aren't written anywhere in any instruction manual that came in the box. Some are pretty easy to guess, but there are a couple that I wish I would have known going into this thing that would have made the transition to becoming a fursuiter in this fandom a whole lot easier. Let me explain. Let's get right into it. You know those incredible fursuits that you see at conventions that just look clean? The ones with pristine, fluffy fur that looks like it just came out of the box? Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. They don't magically stay that way throughout their life. Behind every good-looking fursuit is hours of meticulous maintenance that really no one talks about until it's too late. Thankfully, I caught this early on with my suit. After wearing it for the first couple of times, I noticed that the fur around the neck specifically started to look a bit flat and matted in some spots. At the time, I just brushed it away and didn't really think about it, but then the problem came back in the exact same spot as well. What I didn't realize at the time is that fursuit maintenance requires a lot of dedication and time. The daily brushing sessions after a day in a suit could take up to 30 minutes when done properly, not the 30 seconds that I originally thought would suffice. And different fur types might demand specific tools. Short pile fur might need a gentle, slicker brushes, while longer fur might best respond to wide-toothed combs to prevent tangles. Your cleaning arsenal becomes essential too. Stuff like fursuit spray kills bacteria and prevents odors between wears. The washing procedure for your suit has to be done carefully as well. You'll probably spot clean pretty regularly, but deep cleans can require setting aside an entire day. The drying process alone takes several hours with proper air circulation because this expensive fur doesn't handle dryer heat at all. All of this is to say that as much fun as wearing the suit is, taking care of a fursuit takes just as much, if not more time to ensure that it continues to look good for years on end. Taking care of your suit is just the beginning of the journey, but what happens when you put all of this effort in only to discover that nobody can tell that you're smiling, waving, or dancing inside? Have you ever watched yourself on video and wondered if that's really how other people see you? If you haven't done this before, I actually recommend it for your first few fursuiting sessions. And I say that because after my first convention, I was pretty certain I'd have been the life of the party, jumping, gesturing wildly, and putting my whole heart into every movement. Then I saw some of the videos people took of me, which unfortunately I can't seem to find, but honestly, I'm not even sure if I want to at this point. I remember telling myself that stiff, barely moving character couldn't possibly be me, but it definitely was. What initially felt like energetic dancing inside my suit appeared as gentle swaying like everyone else. But that's the thing about moving around in fursuit. It's like trying to express yourself through a thick pillow. All of this padding, foam, and fur literally absorbs your energy. The weight of the head restricts your movement, while the bulk creates resistance with every gesture. When you raise your arm, the material has to shift and stretch before showing any change on the outside, and by then, half of your energy is gone. So to actually look full of life and energetic, you really have to exaggerate your movements. To make a proper wave, you really need to extend your arm in a full arc twice as wide as normal. Stuff like a head bow becomes a full upper body movement. And even the simplest of dances requires movements 50% more dramatic than usual. And just like any new skill, it takes practice. I've spent hours at this point practicing in front of mirrors and cameras, developing an entirely new physical vocabulary where subtlety doesn't exist and everything must be theatrical to translate through this foam and fur. Now, one of the core memories I'll always have with this fursuit was my second con in this suit, where I was running over to hug someone, turned a corner, and heard a hard crash behind me. And after looking back, I suddenly realized that I'd sent a wet floor sign flying across the hotel lobby. That was my first, rather embarrassing lesson in spatial awareness and how much more of it you'll need in suit, especially in a full suit like mine. You see, while I've been so focused on making my movements visible to others, I'd completely overlooked how my physical dimensions had fundamentally changed. My tail in particular is now an unintentional wrecking ball that my brain didn't initially account for. Learning to navigate in a fursuit transforms your entire sense of space. Your field of vision narrows dramatically, creating blind spots that make everyday navigation challenging. Looking down requires actually bending your waist. Checking above you means tilting your entire upper body back. Peripheral vision just simply disappears. And remember, none of this is natural. Your brain will struggle to recalibrate your body's boundaries. These ears add height, making doorways hazardous. Paws extend your reach, causing you to knock things off of tables that you thought you were safely passing. And this is particularly bad for me, but depth perception becomes so distorted that judging distances turns into guesswork. But just like exaggerating your body movements, over time you will learn from each mishap and develop essential techniques to keep the space around you safe. You'll start to pick up on things like checking your tail before you turn around and slightly ducking before you approach doorways. And perhaps the most valuable help that you could get, especially at the beginning of your fursuiting journey, is your handler, that friend who watches your blind spots in crowded spaces and becomes your extra set of eyes while you're still learning all of your new dimensions. Now, so far, all of the things that we've gone over have been physical, what you do when you put this suit on. Most of these you could kind of anticipate when you get your suit. If you've talked to any other fursuiters about their early experiences, then this is the kind of stuff that they'll mostly reference. But one of the more unspoken aspects about getting a fursuit is how it changes your relationships with other people in the fandom, especially in person at cons. And the shift is immediate, which I think throws people off a little bit more than you might think. At cons, strangers approach you every few minutes for hugs and photos. Your casual convention experience transforms into an entire performance. You basically become more of an attraction rather than just an attendee. And I'm bringing this up because if you're not fully ready for all of that attention, it can be very overwhelming. Heck, it can still be overwhelming for even experienced suitors, especially as conventions continue to get bigger and bigger. But if you pace yourself, these interactions can also build something unexpected. Genuine confidence. Some of the connections that I've made while fursuiting have become friendships extending beyond convention weekends, creating a community that's now pretty essential to my life. And honestly, to explain that fully is worth a video all on its own, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss it when I make it. But the bottom line is that confidence is worth infinitely more whatever I paid for this suit itself. And to explain that fully is worth a video on its own, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss it when I make it. But the bottom line is that confidence is worth infinitely more than whatever I paid for the suit itself. Now, I do want to mention that that confidence that I was speaking about earlier doesn't come for free with the suit. I'm sure we've all seen examples of this at cons, a stunning looking suit standing alone in the corner while someone with just a head commanding a constant crowd. What's separating those two experiences isn't the craftsmanship or the fullness of their suits, it's something far more fundamental. A fursuit is essentially an art piece without a soul until you breathe some kind of character into it. That beautiful suit that we mentioned earlier was technically perfect, but spiritually vacant, the latter being much more important to actually make connections in this fandom than the former. The characters that stand out typically have 3 to 5 distinct quirks that instantly identify them. One may always greet people with a specific catchphrase, another may have a signature head tilt and exciting bouncing when recognizing someone. And again, this all comes with practice and figuring out something that feels natural, but still stands out. But in my experience, it's something that comes to you over time as you get more familiar with your suit and its respective character. If you really want to challenge yourself to come up with this, be a silent suitor and don't talk when people come up to interact with you. Can someone tell if your character is shy, excitable, or mischievous just by watching your movements? If so, then you're on your way to giving your suit a sense of life. And it's that life, that spirit behind the fur, that people in this fandom really connect with. Even the most anatomically perfect wolf head is just an impressive art piece walking around without that important step of character development. When you take a step back from all of this, the journey of fursuiting becomes something much more profound than just taking something out of the box and wearing a costume. It's this incredible transformation that happens both externally and internally. What I discovered wasn't just a cool character to show off, but that I was growing too, developing social skills, finding new ways to communicate, and building confidence that I never knew I had. Remember, the beauty of fursuiting lies not in the fabric, but in the life that you breathe into it. The magic that we speak of about these things exists in the moments you create and the connections you build, not in the expensive materials or perfect details. So I'll leave you with this. If you're new to fursuiting, focus on who your character is rather than what they look like. This community embraces authenticity over perfection. That's what people will remember long after you've worn your suit through its final threads. All right, that's it for this one. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you all in the next one, but until then, stay wild out there. Peace.